This is an example of the viewRename command. I've got a copy of Revit's Advanced Sample Project open in Revit 2012. To start off, I'm going to go up to the Revolution Design tab for 2012 or the Add-ins tab for 2011. I'm going to go over to the settings and say viewRename. This will bring up my viewRename settings. This dialog consists of 5 main regions: elevation name, section name, callout name, view legend, and room name format. Elevation name contains 3 types of elevations here. By default, Revit's default templates load with interior elevation and building elevation. Casework elevation is just another one that might be available. What these are, they should match up with your elevation types that are in your project. So if you go with Revit's default, these are fine. If you have some office standards that you've renamed some of these in some ways, you should change this to match your office standard. Section name, similarly, you've got 3 types of sections. Revit default is wall section, building section, and detail. And then callouts are defined not by the callout type, but by what's in the callout. You've got columns, ramps, restrooms, stairs, and defaults or everything else. On the right-hand side here, you've got your view naming conventions. What you can do is type in any sort of text and just put in these bracketed placeholders with the numbers inside of them to stand for any portion of the view type that can be pulled from the model. So for example, on interior elevations here, it's going to say the word elevation, just as I've typed it, and then it's going to put the room name because I've put the 0 placeholder, then it's going to put a dash, and then the room number, and then the direction, north, south, east, or west. I've also got level, grid, horizontal, and grid vertical here available if I want to use those. Use those in some of the callouts here. I don't need to use it in the interior elevation. As you can see, view legend is just the legend of what those numbers, those placeholders stand for. And lastly, room name format is just another setting for changing the room name to lowercase, uppercase, or to unchanged from what it is in the interface. I'm going to leave it at unchanged for right now. That's viewRename settings. So now, for an example, I've got this elevation that someone's created on the north wall of the cafeteria here. If I look at this, it's an interior elevation. That's correct since we're inside the building. But it's just got a default view name, elevation 1A, which is harder to find in the project browser when you've got multiple elevations. It's not very descriptive. It doesn't tell you much of anything about the project. It doesn't stack to view name standards or anything like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I want to rename that one per my standards. I'm just going to go up to this view rename existing view. Click that. It's going to ask me which view. I'm going to select that one, which brings me my main dialog. This up here is all the possible fields preset to what viewRename thinks it should be. Generally pretty accurate. Cafeteria 121 is correct. That's the north wall correct. Level and grid are correct, but we don't really need them right now because they're not relevant to this view type. You can see it knows that this is an elevation view, and callout does not have these elements within it, so it defaults to default even though it's not relevant for an elevation. It knows that it's an interior elevation view. If I had changed the name in view settings, this would change to that type, and section obviously doesn't matter either. So you can see the existing view name right here is elevation 1A generic, and you can see this is what it's suggesting as the new name, elevation cafeteria 121 north, which is pulled directly off of my settings. If you remember, for interior elevations, I had it set to the word elevation, the room name, which is right here, and the room dash, and then the room number, and then the room direction, which is north. So this is exactly defaulted per my office standard. So I'm just going to hit OK. And you can see I'm still within that command, so I can click. If I've got all 4 elevations here, I can just click, 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 click all the way around. Or if I've got multiple views, I can click multiple times. Instead, I'm just going to escape since that's the only one I've got. And you can see right here, it's changed it to elevation cafeteria 121 north. And that is the essentials of viewRename.